There's another update in the Coinbase lawsuit. So I'll tell you guys exactly what happened right now. But on the sidelines, many people have been asking me, what is going on in the Ripple case? What's the next big thing? And there's something happening, potentially, within 24 hours. Because we've got an official SEC deadline today. Will something happen? Well, we'll know about it shortly. And also, one major thing is happening in the next 72 hours, which I'll talk about in this video. Not any terms of lawsuit, but still something very important for the crypto space, especially for my traders out there. And then last but not least, talking crypto regulation, something very important is happening next week. All of that will be covered in this video. So make sure, guys, that you press that like button right now. You get nothing, all right, except for information, and I get likes and validation, and I can go to bed happier knowing I get more likes. I'm empty like that, yes. You guys don't know that the SEC is in a lawsuit with Coinbase, right? Well, a little while ago, Coinbase basically requested the judge to speed it up a little, and through some miracle, I mean, we kind of knew because through some miracle, the judge is actually abiding by those requests. Context? Well, ever since Ripple won their case, Coinbase is on the offense. But meanwhile, the judge in the Coinbase versus SEC case also recognized that, well, it wasn't that crazy for Coinbase to think they were doing everything right because they filed for an IPO with the SEC. And even though it hasn't really been brought up in court officially, I suppose that this judge is also a man of reason that kind of understood the Ripple lawsuit and everything that went on there, and to extrapolate then that, well, basically you can't properly sit down with the SEC to discuss anything that you want. To again further that claim, in the judge's official response, they basically said back to the SEC that there's probably a reason why Coinbase sued them, right? Which was all to go sit down and make proper rules, and they refused to get back. Anyway, right now the judge has come back. Judge Falia issued a schedule order for our Rule 12C motion for judgment on the pleadings. We appreciate the court's prompt attention to this matter. Let's take a look, Pursuant to the court's instruction to the parties during the initial pre-trial and pre-motion conference held on July 13th, Coinbase and the plaintiffs, the SEC, respectfully submit that this joint letter to the court, the parties met and conferred regarding a proposed briefing schedule and page limits for Coinbase's anticipated motion for judgment on the pleadings pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure. The parties agreed on and jointly proposed the following deadlines. Coinbase's motion and opening brief due August 4th. Any amicus briefs in support of Coinbase's motion to all this due 7 days thereafter. Any amicus briefs in support of the SEC's opposition due 7 days after the SEC opposition, and Coinbase's reply brief due 21 days after the SEC's opposition. Apparently, the parties have not been able to reach an agreement with respect to the deadline for the SEC's opposition. Coinbase proposes that the SEC's opposition brief be due 30 days after the opening, etc., and the SEC says, hey, let's do it 60 days. The parties agreed on some limits for pages, and at this time, the SEC will not be filing a motion to strike any of Coinbase's affirmative defenses. And it says right here, application granted in part. The briefing schedule will proceed as follows, right? The official deadlines are now set in stone for the Coinbase lawsuit, at least as of this point. Once more, the Coinbase versus SEC lawsuit. Opening brief due August 4th, so that's our most newest, recent, next major thing coming up in this lawsuit. Amicus briefs, like for example John Dean and a couple of others, have to come in by August 11th. The initial opposition due on October 3rd. Amicus briefs in support of the plaintiff's opposition are due October 10th. And defendants' reply brief, so again, the SEC is going after Coinbase, so Coinbase are the defendants. Their reply brief is due October 24th. And so things are about to get spicy in this regard. Anyway, guys, right now, check this out. BitGet is giving away quite a couple of cool prizes. All you need to do is check the link down below, and whatever action you take will give you a spin, basically, that you can use on the spinning wheel. And you've got a couple of cool prizes in there, like $2,000 voucher or a MacBook. Just check it out. The link is down below. Or over on Bybit, you can claim for yourself an 1,125 USDT XRP trade. All you have to do is just check the link down below and claim it. That's about it. So what else is coming up? I've heard many people ask this question. What exactly is going to happen in the Ripple lawsuit next? Simply put, the most important thing that's going to happen is either an appeal this weekend from the SEC. This is an interlocutory appeal, which is basically I'd say stupid thing for the SEC to do, but apparently it's the only thing that they can do as of this point, as they're still waiting for the trial on Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson's aiding and abetting claims. However, taking a look at what Jeremy Hogan, a lawyer, said a while ago, an official appeal is after the case is completely finished, which this one isn't. It's finished on XRP's being a security issue, but whether or not the CEO and co-founder aided and abetted in all this is not yet finished. A trial still has to happen, but they didn't even discuss deadlines for that yet. After the final judgment, which again is not here yet, they've got 60 days to appeal, which once more hasn't happened yet. And here it says in the normal rules, you have 10 days to go for an interlocutory appeal, which could be right now. But apparently it's rarely granted, and when it is, the normal situation would be where allowing discovery would let a dog out the bag, e.g. when the Hinman emails were ordered published. That's the type of thing you want to go for an interlocutory appeal for, because that might be granted. But if the judge herself thought her ruling was controversial or out there, that it needed intermediate review yet again, she could have certified it for review to the appellate court, but she didn't. She didn't do that, which is another indicator such an appeal might not be granted because she doesn't think it to be necessary, because she will not change her mind, basically. So an interlocutory appeal are not automatically granted and not often granted, and you don't have the right to them, which basically means the SEC can apply to try and appeal, which in many different ways they said they wanted to do. Even Coin Bureau reported on that. But rarely is it granted if it's in this period of time. And so what I think the SEC is mostly talking about in all their interviews of saying, hey, we're not agreeing with the courts, we're going to fight this, is the moment after the entire lawsuit is settled, which will probably be another couple of years before they really go fully into this. And even then, if they appeal, it could take another couple of years for that to conclude. If the SEC is not going after it today, right now today, because this, I believe, marks the 10th day of the judgment, which is, I believe, the deadline to ask if they can go for an interlocutory appeal, then most likely they'll stay in silence for the next couple of years on this issue. So once more, it's not confirmed they're going to appeal. They just say something. But at the end of the day, a lot of these barking dogs don't really bite or don't have the bite in them. They just bark because that's the only thing they can do, and they're afraid. I mean, if you think about it, Ripple has been shooting them shots at them for a little while now by calling them some goofballs, as they don't even have the authority to go after this. And I'm not sure if the SEC even wants to numb everything down. Wants to hammer things down, because what the appeal would mean here as well. Let's say it is granted, then it would basically mean that the judge goes over everything again, and from that point on forward, they can never argue again that something is not fixed right, because then it's official. Official. No more appeal left. And right now, at least they've got the option to say, hey, we're gonna fight back. The judge made a mistake. After she's double checked, basically, there's no going back. Which is also what Jeremy said. He said they've got more to lose than to gain. If it wins the appeal, it pulls back some adverse trial level case. But if it loses the appellate level, so a little different court, now every court in the second DCA must follow the decision. Meaning, let's say, and this is how it always goes, right? Let's say you've lost on a certain level in the court system. Let's say you take it a level higher and you also lose there. Now, every single time it comes to both these levels, you're basically screwed, where before you were only screwed on the lower level, basically. That's why I said you've basically double screwed and certainly screwed yourself from that point on forward. It goes from a flush to a royal flush, so to speak. Another question would be, what exactly can they appeal? They can't appeal everything. And I believe the part where XRP is being traded on Coinbase, etc., I don't think they can even try to go after that part, especially since all these lawyers were saying that the judge included different cases in all this to even solidify her ruling, to make sure that an appeal would be kind of useless because it's based on other cases, etc., etc. Because again, she didn't have to, but she did add it into it, which is why a lot of lawyers were saying, no, this is going to stay this way. I think the only appeal part that can work is on some of Ripple's other sales that they've done, but not on XRP actually being a security. I don't think that's going to work. I believe more so the programmatic sales part, right, of what Ripple has sold in the past, being investment contracts. Not, again, XRP being a security itself. Which brings me to the point, what's going to happen next in this lawsuit? Well, we have to wait for some trial dates. Nothing has been delivered on that yet. And perhaps today we're going to see an SEC interlocutory appeal, which could, of course, be pretty freaking huge, but I don't think it's going to happen. And for the rest, the most exciting part, I'd say, is everything coming up next week. As you guys remember, a new bill was proposed, right, to hit the Senate, hit every part of the playground. And I believe they're going to vote on this, or at least bring it up this week. That's what's being said throughout the week. Again, hopefully you guys remember this House Agriculture Committee bill from a little bit ago, the one that focused on digital assets. It says right here, on the House, yada, 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 they're rushing into markup next week. Some people are against it. This person says there are many reasons to pump the brakes on this bill, and I'll discuss them in the thread. And this person says, first of all, does anyone really think that regulating the crypto market is the most pressing financial and agricultural issue facing the American public? No. Instead, prepare for legislation is coming from some venture capitalists, the crypto industry, and their lobbyists. To which the point I'm trying to make here is this is coming up. It's still very controversial, but it's coming up. And I'd say it's one of the most pressing issues in the crypto space right now. Yet, this usually comes from people that don't know anything about crypto. For example, stating, crypto is now facing an existential crisis, which is funny because the SEC is cracking down on security laws violations, is her argument. And most Americans have wised up to crypto's problems, with 75% of Americans who've heard of crypto saying they don't trust it. In theory, you could say that they don't trust crypto because there are no rules from you. And it can't be trusted because of the SEC's pressure in the way they're doing their business. But that's up for debate. I'm trying to say this is also what's coming up next week, which is pretty exciting. And of course, right now, we've got 72 hours on the FOMC meeting. 3 days until this is coming in. So, stay tuned for that as well. I'll probably give you guys a more deep analysis on what I think is going to happen and how I think this will change the price. Because usually, guys, if we're talking about the FOMC, I think it really wrecks the market or at least changes things and gets a little bump and whatnot going. Usually, there are also some good profits to be made with that. So, I'll get you guys a deeper update on exactly what that's going to be about. But yeah, that's about it for today's video. Hopefully, you guys all enjoyed it. Hopefully, you guys are ready for what's about to happen. And that's about it.